Hey Mena Warriors, it's Kate and welcome back to my channel. This is my Menopause Monday where I share weekly videos with you every single Monday. Today we are talking about how stress affects our menopause symptoms and also how our menopause can make stress worse. I think it's important to note, first of all, there's a difference between anxiety and stress. A lot of people tend to confuse the two. Stress comes from an external stressor. So that could be an individual, it could be a circumstance, it can be what you eat and drink or don't eat and drink. It can be a lack of sleep, it can be our hormones. And anxiety tends to be our reaction to stress. Anxiety is like a constant feeling of almost dread going on in the background. And that is more of an internal thing. They're both related, but I just want to be clear about what stress is. We are talking about the things that are external to us, including our internal hormones, but it's still an external thing causing us to be stressed rather than anxiety, which is that build-up of various stressors over a long period of time or a shorter period of time. And when you just get that dreaded feeling in the pit of your stomach, that is known as anxiety. So just to be very clear about that. Firstly, let's have a talk about what goes on with the our hormones in our menopause. The body is going through a huge amount of change, whether you've had an instant menopause because you've had surgery, you've had your ovaries removed, or whether you've had, more of a gentle approach like the majority of us. We've gone, our periods have got more disjointed. We move into perimenopause. We start to get some of those menopausal symptoms. Generally during the perimenopause, the symptoms tend to be worse. Once you've gone beyond the menopause, which is incidentally is just one day, it marks 12 months since your last period, and then technically you're postmenopausal. Perimenopause, I think, is probably the worst for most of us. You'll find that majority of your symptoms will settle down as you go beyond postmenopause. There are a few like sort of getting drier skin and mucous membranes drying up. Those tend not to get much better, but for the majority of your other symptoms, they are likely to improve. So know that this is a phase. There is also a lot of doom and gloom out there about the menopause. The way I look at it is we've made it this far. We should be, there might be a few difficulties that we're experiencing with our hormones. And yes, I'm not denying the fact they can make you feel bloody awful, but let's also just take stock and just be grateful that we've actually got this far, because there's a lot of people out there who've never made it this far. So I think when we can get our mindset behind us in a positive way, it helps us manage our symptoms better. And I just relate this to childbirth. Childbirth is bloody agonizing. I had two very large babies at home. The only thing I was allowed to have was gas and air because I had a birthing pool for my son. My daughter was just chaos. It was really chaotic. I thought I'd be able to get in and out of what I thought was a big bath at the time. It was just like, oh, no way. So I gave birth to her on the sitting room floor. And but the difference between that pain and a pain that comes from a disease is the fact that you're going to get your baby at the end of it. Well, you bloody well hope you're going to get your baby at the end of it. It's a pain that is associated with something that has a positive outcome. Whereas pain from an illness, from a disease, from damage, that is a different type of pain. And they're all pain. The only difference in it is our mindset around that pain. And I would really like to encourage as many of you to try and be as positive around our menopause experience as we can. And that's not denying that there are some really awful experiences of menopause, and it's not saying, well, just pretend it's better than it is. But when our mindset supports us, it makes our journey through the menopause more positive. I'm a great believer in positive thinking, and we have a lot more power at our fingertips and up here than we think we do. So I just wanted to start with that. Our mindset is also one of our most powerful tools to help us manage stress and anxiety. Now, firstly, the way I'm going to sort of talk a little bit first about how stress affects our menopausal symptoms, and then I'm going to share with you a few things that you can do to help alleviate and manage your stress better. Okay? Stress is a major one for making our mood swings worse. and also creating that sense of low mood, which I know a lot of us have during the menopause. You know, your hormones are all over the shop. If you think about, you know, before you had your period, normally you have a week or a few days where you feel a bit like antsy, and you get the sugar cravings, and you don't sleep very well, and you get more sweaty, and you just, even though you look exactly the same as you did the previous 3 weeks, you just feel like you look like something, you just feel like you're just the ugliest you've ever looked. Your hair feels lank. Through the sort of perimenopause, because of our fluctuating hormones, that can happen more often, unfortunately, which is when our mindset is incredibly important. I am a qualified psychotherapist. I specialize in anxiety, so I do know what I'm talking about. Mindset is absolutely key. So when you have that mindset of taking ownership over some of your symptoms, and also knowing that you have control over a lot of those symptoms, even if it's to reduce them rather than just to get rid of them completely, it puts you in the driver's seat. And when you feel like you have control over something, it makes that thing that's bothering you seem a lot less important. So going back to mood swings, it's understanding that it is your hormones. You're not going mad. Your relationship isn't suddenly breaking down. It's the fact that your hormones are all over the shop. When you have got low mood, when you are naturally feeling more vulnerable to stress, because don't forget, when we have these fluctuating hormones, it affects how we sleep, it affects how we manage stress. It is a stressor to our bodies too, because our bodies are thinking, what the heck's going on? So we've got the stress of the imbalanced hormones, but we also have the fact that the stress is caused then by the fact that we're probably not sleeping very well. We're thinking, is this it for life? Am I going to be like this person? Am I going to have this rage? Am I going to have these mood swings? I don't know whether I'm coming or going. When you're sleep deprived, it affects your memory. And we all know about brain fog and the menopause. So it can make you feel helpless. It can make you turn to food, which can then make you put on more weight. Everything is related. Everything is interrelated. When you are going through the menopause and you've got the stress of the imbalanced hormones, but then you've also got the stress of not sleeping well. You've also got the stress of perhaps eating things that you shouldn't be eating as much of, maybe drinking things you shouldn't be drinking as much of, and maybe creating more of a stressful environment because you're in a low mood. So maybe you've had an argument, maybe rather than stepping away and sort of thinking, okay, whatever, you've bitten the fuse, or you've lit the fuse. All those things have that impact of making us feel like we need to emotionally support ourselves, which of course we do, but a lot of us turn to food and drink in order to do that. Also, when our stress hormones are elevated, so largely our cortisol levels, they're pumping out more cortisol, they're pumping out more stress hormones than they normally would do. That also has the effect of raising our insulin levels in the body. Well, insulin is one of our fat storing hormones. And there's a sort of two-pronged thing here I want to mention. When we have elevated levels of cortisol over a long period of time, which is why when I come to the exercise, please, if you're doing loads of cardio, stop it, because you're only making your belly fat worse. But I will come to that in more detail. It's when we've got those high levels of cortisol, we're spiking our insulin. So our body's naturally hanging on to, making us more fat. Cortisol has the result of gobbling up our gluteal muscles and our quad muscles, so our thigh and booty muscles. You're seeing a lot of menopausal women, they've got little stick legs and then they've got a big barrel belly. That is cortisol. That is cortisol in practice. We have 4 times the amount of cortisol receptors around our belly. So when you're stressed, on goes the belly fat. That's why stress management is one of the key areas if you want to shift your belly fat, which is what I deal nearly with every lady that joins my wellness community. Belly fat is one of the major concerns that she wants to get rid of. And the good thing is you can totally get rid of your belly fat. I've got a little bit of extra around my middle at the minute, but that's because I'm eating and drinking all the stuff. I believe very much in a lifestyle that is sustainable and that is fun. If I wanted to look like an absolute chiseled athlete, I know there were certain things I'd have to change, and that would be probably drink less wine and beer, actually. The majority of the rest of the stuff is pretty good. You'll find also when you start to eat the things and drink the things that are going to support your health, those cravings will drop off. Also, cortisol, stress hormone again, affects our magnesium levels. Well, magnesium is one of those hormones, or minerals rather, that helps us to feel calm. So, you know, like Epsom salt baths, that contains magnesium. They are great at helping you get rid of muscle soreness, just helping to soothe a sort of frazzled day. So being mindful of the fact that taking a good magnesium supplement, taking a good sort of multivitamin B complex, that's what I want to say, is going to help your nervous system and help you deal with stress. I will come to that again in a minute, because I want to sort of try and not be too squirrel brainy about this. Also, when we're feeling stressy, it can be, we can almost isolate ourselves. Even though we don't want to isolate ourselves, we end up doing it because we haven't got the energy to have that conversation. We might not even know how to have that conversation with the person we probably in a relationship with. And it can make you feel very isolated, and you can almost back yourself into a corner. Well, I would really recommend, I mean, I think communication doesn't necessarily always have to be easy. It can be flipping hard, and it does take guts to do it. My tip to you, with my therapy hat on, is if you're brave enough to have that conversation, come from a point of I am. Always say I am, because nobody can deny you how you're feeling in your body. When you say you make me feel, or you did this and it made me do that, it's pointing a finger of accusation, which most people defend their ego. There are very few people that can see beyond the, oh, you made me feel, you made me do this. You doing this makes me crazy. You've got to come from a point of I am, come from your own experience without it being an accusatory finger pointing at the other individual. It can be hard. There's also a great technique called feather technique, and you say, you know, you both have this agreement that when that person holds the feather, that is the individual who's talking. And when you put the feather down, you've said your bit, and now it's time for the other person to pick up the feather and do their talking. And until they put the feather down, and you know, the one person cannot hold the feather for hours on end. There has to be rules around it. But you might say, well, you have the feather for 5 minutes and then put it on the table. And then the person you're talking to grabs the feather for 5 minutes and then puts it back. That way it gives you some, you might think it's a bit silly, but it gives you a framework around that conversation. It gives you balanced talking moments. Talking is key. And if you're really struggling with having that conversation, and I know sometimes conversations, they hit a dead end and they hit a dead end and they hit a dead end. Write a letter and come from I am again. But I think writing a letter is really cathartic. It gives you a chance to put it all down in words, on paper. It gives you time to think, is this really what I want to say? Because sometimes in the heat of the moment, or if you're nervous, you might fluff your words. You might not quite get it across how you want to say it. So if you're worried about that happening, write the letter. And I would write the letter, and then I'd put it away for a day or so, and then I'd come back and I'd read that letter again, and maybe make a few adjustments, make sure that it's not an accusatory letter, it comes from a place of love, but requiring understanding. That will really, really help you. Know also, please, that stress affects your digestive system. So you might be more constipated, you might have more pain in your tummy. When we've got sore tummies, it can make us feel really low. So just be aware of the fact that stress is having a negative impact on your digestion. So is your falling estrogen. Estrogen helps the motility of pushing the food through our gut. As we go through the menopause, as our estrogen levels drop off, that motility slows. It can become really sluggish. So that's why activity is going to really help you with your digestion. Don't rely, I mean, I talk to some people and they say, oh, I just, that's why I keep smoking, because if I don't smoke, I won't be able to go to the toilet. Okay, well, that's one philosophy. And I understand, I know that often smokers, it does trigger you to go to the toilet, but there are healthier ways around it. So if that's you, please know that once you've sort of got your gut health back and you're doing a bit more activity during the day and drinking probably more water, eating more vegetables, it will help you get that motility back. So just know that. So really, how to sort out the stress. Firstly, again, with my psychotherapy hat on, I'm very much a solution-focused psychotherapist. I will sit and I'll listen to you, and I'm a good listener, but I also like to provide people with solutions, because there's a strain of thinking, well, if if you sit and listen to somebody long enough, they'll come up with their own solutions. It's just like, I just don't see why they were sat in your office. They're here because they need you to help them find a solution. So I'm very much based upon solution finding. One of the best things I can recommend you do is actually write down what are the stressors for you. Of course, you're not going to understand the hormone balance side of things. You don't need to. But apart from your erratic hormones, what is stressing you? Is it an individual? Is it a circumstance? Is it your workplace? Is it the fact that you're not getting much support at home? Are you worried about your finances? Do you hate your job? Do you love your job, but you never have any time for yourself? What are the stressors that are causing you this issue? Because we have this tendency to catastrophize. So it's like, oh, everything's just rubbish. All this happened to me today. I never get it right. Everything goes wrong for me. That's just a load of BS. That's the stories we're telling ourselves. When you can be specific about the stressors that are negatively affecting you, then you can pinpoint what those issues are. And once you know what those issues are, then you can take action to overcome those issues. But until you know what you're dealing with specifically, it's always going to be this general chaos that's happening. But you'll find that there's not general chaos. There are good things that are happening in your day too. And again, this moves back to our mindset. When we can look at the things that are going well for us too, it helps balance out those things that are not going so well. And we all have the human psyche has this tendency to focus towards negativity. It's like, go on Google, you'll find millions of negative Google reviews, but you'll find very, very few positive reviews. I wish we all were more positive about each other more regularly and just stop the flipping moaning. That's an aside. Don't get me down that rabbit hole. So be specific. What is causing your stress? Because when you know what's causing your stress, you can take action to help overcome that stress. One of the next things that I'm going to suggest to you is deep breathing. It's one of the first techniques I teach to all the people that come through my door with anxiety-related issues. If you'll think, I'm not paying you money to tell me how to deep breathe. Well, why are you sat in my office then? Because you need a solution. Deep breathing is scientifically proven to make us relax, and we cannot be relaxed and stressed at the same time. Take a few deep breaths. Breathe in through your nose. Feel it. Hold that breath for a few seconds. Try and relax your shoulders. And then breathe out slowly through your mouth, but for a longer period of time than you breathed in. And really breathe out. Make your belly go fat so you can really get the air out of the base again, and then breathe in again. And when you're breathing in, remember to breathe into your diaphragm, not your lungs, or your chest rather, your diaphragm. You want to try and visualize you're breathing into the bottom of your lungs. So many of us just chest breathe. We need to really get our breath down into our diaphragm. If you can do that 3 or 4, ideally 10 times, I promise you, even after 2 deep breaths, you're going to feel better than you did before those 2 deep breaths. It has this pacifying effect. It's like being cocooned in a big hug. So get breathing on your side, as well as helping you feel less stressed. It floods your body with nutrients. It helps stimulate your lymphatic system, which is very important, particularly going through the menopause, because you've got enough stress and toxins in our body. We need that lymphatic system to be pushed around. The only reason our lymph moves is through breath and through movement. We don't have a pump on our lymphatic system like we do the heart. So it's up to us. So you'll find that when you're moving more often, when you're doing more deep breathing, your skin will improve as well. Your breath will improve. You'll probably go to the toilet more easily. So breath work is incredibly, incredibly important, okay? I did mention it quickly before. Just take a vitamin B complex. The B1, B2, B3, B6, B12s, they help our body maintain a healthy nervous system. But the other B vitamins help us to actually actively manage stress more effectively. Mindfulness and meditation. This is something I recommend everybody does. I'm rubbish at it personally. My exercise for me is my sort of mindfulness meditation section of the day. But I do wake up with gratitude. And when I go to bed, I also give gratitude. So I just think of 3 things I'm grateful for that day. And they always have to be different. I also say my prayers. I always pray, you know, I'm thankful that the kids have got home safely, that we had a beautiful day, or that we didn't have a beautiful day, but I was able to get out in it. You know, I pray and I give gratitude. And for me, that makes me feel really at ease. It gives me that sort of foundation of peace. A really great tip, one of the best ones you're going to love, is dark chocolate contains high amounts of magnesium, about 50. So 1 ounce, so 1 square of dark chocolate, I mean pretty dark, 75 to 85% dark chocolate, contains about 15% of your recommended daily allowance of magnesium, of chocolate. Or, you know, of 15% of what you need of magnesium. That all went quite awry in my head. So dark chocolate is good for you, but I would not eat it too much before, or don't eat too much of it directly before bed, because it can stimulate you, so it can make going to sleep a little bit harder. Exercise. Exercise is brilliant on every single level. You should all be doing it if you're not doing it already. If you want help getting started, I know exercise can be quite daunting if you've never done it or you've not done it for a while. I've just started face yoga and I'm on my day 5 today. And you know, it really brought it home to me how important it is to have confidence in the system that you're using. So I bought the book and I bought the course because I wanted to be shown how to do the things. I find the same applies to exercise. That's why the system that I use is so successful, particularly if you're newer to exercise or it's been a while since you've done it, because you get the calendar, you get taught through each program. Each day, it's a different day. So day 1 might be booty, day 2 might be the right kind of cardio for menopause. Day 3 might be stretching and relaxing. Day 4 might be endurance strength. Day 5 might be cardio conditioning, the right type for menopause. You know, that you follow the program, that it is designed specifically by the experts. So you don't need to worry about whether you're doing the right thing. You don't need to think, oh, should I go for a run today? Or should I go for a brisk walk? Or should I go for a bike ride? Maybe I better do 30 minutes of strength training. Oh, I don't know. And by that time, you've sort of talked yourself out of it. You need the system that works. And also you get the nutritional support too. You will learn so much about nutrition. And when your nutrition is pretty good, not perfect, but pretty good, you won't get those cravings. I promise you. It's kind of weird. It's you almost like want to eat the chocolate because you know you like the chocolate, but you think, I actually don't feel like chocolate. I don't need it. It gobbles up stress hormones. It's one of the most effective ways of getting rid of belly fat. Also keeps your bones strong, which we need in menopause. It keeps your muscles looking nice and toned, because we also need that. They'll just vanish otherwise. It keeps your balance better. You're more stable on your feet. Fewer risks of stress fractures and hip fractures. Do you know there are? Oh, I think it's 12,000 women. I think it's 12,000 women in the UK die every month due to hospitalization having had a hip fracture. That's pretty serious stuff. So keep strong, because you want to keep your balance. You don't want to be falling over. That's why older people fall over more, because they haven't got the muscles to keep them upright as easily. And our spatial awareness just does change as well. So as well as gobbling up stress hormones and keeping your muscles strong and keeping your bones strong, it floods the body with feel-good endorphins. So as well, you know, there is nothing wrong with stress. You exercise, rather. There is nothing wrong with exercise. You should absolutely be doing exercise. The next thing I would say is adaptogen herbs. I take them every day. They help you manage with stress more effectively. They help you manage the cortisol levels in your body. I take a mix of 8. I swear by them. They help my mental health. Excuse me, I just spat. They help with anxiety. They help me sleep better. They help with your skin and your hair. Although I am actually going to, if you watched last week's Menopause Monday, I've realised I'm getting a little bit thin here, but I might be bald if I didn't have adaptogen herbs. On every hormone balance, they are brilliant. So adaptogen herbs, highly recommend. Time out in nature. There is something so calming and grounding. If you take your shoes off, or take all footwear off and get on the ground if you can, if it's not freezing cold. It's very grounding. barefoot walking is incredibly beneficial for your health. But time out in nature, even if it's just 5 minutes, just get outside, look up at the sky, take some deep breaths, maybe drink a pint of water, and just embrace being outside. Limit caffeine, because caffeine does stimulate the nervous system. There is a fabulous 0 caffeine herbal coffee that I use. It's called Teeccino, Teeccino. I get it off iherb.com. It's often better value than Amazon. Brilliant, lovely. They have all sorts of different flavors. It's really, really lovely coffee. I do have that black though. I don't mix it with milk. I also, when I went through a really, really, really challenging time in my life, this wasn't menopause related, this was before menopause. I took Calms. It's a product called KALMS, little herbal tablets, and I took those before bed, and they're all made with natural ingredients, and it's a well-known stress and anxiety remedy. I found it really, really helpful. It did help me go to sleep a bit quicker, and it also helped me go to sleep faster when I woke up again. You'll find essential oils are really good. If you've got an essential oil diffuser, or just you can rub essential oils onto the base of your foot with maybe a carrier oil, olive oil, your favorite foot lotion. Essential oils that I find particularly good for managing with stress and anxiety are bergamot, lavender, chamomile, rose. I love rose. Orange, frankincense. Now, we give boswellia to our horse, who has very inflammatory problems with her joints now. She's very old. You can give and it calms her down too. I also give boswellia to our dogs, our aging dogs. Boswellia, frankincense comes from the boswellia tree. So as well as being relaxing, it's also anti-inflammatory. It does have a really powerful calming effect. And then neroli and ylang ylang are the other two that I would suggest if you want to take essential oils for your stress and or anxiety. Most importantly, as a big underline, just remember you have so much more power at your fingertips than you think you do. It does require you to take action. If you've watched all this and you just think, oh yeah, well, I'll do those tips at some point soon, and you don't take action, you've just wasted however long I took on this video. Take action. List out your stressors. Get started with exercise. If you need help, message me. Make sure you drink plenty of water. If you start your exercise with me, you'll get all the nutritional support and also emotional support that you might want as well. Essential oils, adaptogen herbs, you'll get them too if you start your fitness with me. And communication is absolutely key, because it's not just you going through this. Your other family members will be experiencing their version of your version of the menopause too. And communication is where it's at, and it might be hard. It might mean that things need to change in the house. That's not a bad thing. People get stuck in their ways. Maybe they need to help out a bit more. Make time for you. I know we all say, oh, I haven't got time to make time for me. Why not? I mean, you are your biggest priority. Spend less time scrolling, spend less time in front of the television, be more productive with the time that you have. There is not one super successful person out there who doesn't take time for their own self-care. They all do. It's an absolute necessity for you. And if you're really saying, I just can't, well, then you need to change something. Because your life is here to be lived. Your life is here for you to thrive through it. It's not here for you to slog away. You deserve time for yourself. And that doesn't mean languishing in a bath, eating grapes, being wafted by your harem or harem or whatever the equivalent there might be. It just means making sure that you have enough time for you to be able to manage your day effectively. Taking time for you will reduce your brain fog. It will reduce your stress response. It will make you feel happier. It'll help you physically and mentally on every single level. So please commit to making time for you. And if you need help getting started, just message me. I'm a ninja at self-care. So thank you for your company today. Thank you for your time. Please click the thumbs up if you like this. Make sure to follow and subscribe so that you don't miss any future episodes. And if you've got anything you'd like me to chat about in a future episode, send me a message, drop it in the comments below, and I'll make sure I add that to my list. So take good care of yourself. Make time for your self-care, and I will talk to you next week.